Richard again here from Electric Classic Cars, and in this week's episode, it's finally time for another race car update. Let's get into it. Right, before we get into this episode proper, the keen-eyed amongst you have probably noticed I'm not wearing my usual grey boring top, and that's because we finally sorted out the merch shop. That's right, mugs, t-shirts, hoodies, all in the shop banner below this video, so click on there if you want some goodies. But I just want to explain a little bit behind the background of the artwork that's on these things, because a few years ago I commissioned an artist over in the Netherlands, a very talented guy, with some ideas that I had around what would have happened if the world went electric back in the 1900s instead of petrol. You know, through the 1950s retro-futuristic automotive design era, when they had all those massive fins on cars, right through to the 80s. So there's 3 prints he's done, which are fantastic. I'm really happy with them. One is what a gas station might have looked like in the 1950s if it was a charge station rather than a petrol station. The other is in the 1950s, in motor shows, there was always that concept car going around on a plinth, really futuristic, something like out of 1950s sci-fi movie. So I wanted to kind of recreate what that would have looked like if it was an electric version of one of those cars. And the final one, kind of, you know, doesn't really need much introduction. It's a DeLorean. So what else am I going to do with a DeLorean? So there's a 1980s inspired DeLorean print as well. So they're available on mugs, t-shirts and hoodies. So if you're after something like that, click on the shop banner below. But into the video. Now, in the last episode, we asked for a little bit of help naming this beast, and it was a 2-horse race between Bug Zappa and Kilowatt, although there were quite a few people that also liked Beetlejuice as well, but it really became a 2-horse race between Bug Zappa and Kilowatt, and I was easy either way. Tim, did you have a preference? You did.
I did, but I'm not sure I should say. I quite like Kilowatt.
You like Kilowatt?
Yeah, it's a bit more aggressive, isn't it?
Well, you're going to be disappointed because
not the first time.
The name that won was Bug Zappa. So this is going to be called Bug Zappa. We're going to have it down the side of the car. Zappa is going to be spelt in the old Frank Zappa style as well. So Bug Zappa is going to be the official name of this car. But I think it's time to give you a little bit of an update as to what's happened since last time, because it's been a while. In the last episode, although the car was moving, the drive shafts that we had on were just temporary ones. They were a Tesla drive shaft welded to an Audi drive shaft, just so we can get it moving around the workshop. But I had strict instructions not to put my foot down and boot it, because they would have snapped. But now we have the proper drive shafts. They are big, beefy boys. They've had heat treatment, and apparently I have free rein to boot it. It's more on that later. So what we've got a Tesla end on one end and an Audi R8 on the other, and these are completely custom made drive shafts specifically for us. So the drive shafts are on. What else have we done? I have to admit, I've already had a little bit of a play in this car. It was too tempting. Even though it was horrible weather this week, you can probably see there's a load of mud and dirt over there and the tyres are already scrubbed. But it's a good job we did, because we're quite often on our episodes showing you finished products, and that's mainly because we do these episodes in the weekends, and in the week it's far too manic and crazy and noisy in here to do any filming. But engineering is all around learning and improving things, and that's what we've done this week in this, because we've learned a couple of things and broke a few things as well, which means now we've done a little bit of R&D and improved it enough to take it out for a proper spin today. Bearing in mind we've got 1,000 horsepower in this vehicle, 4-wheel drive, big Tesla sport drive unit at the rear, another drive unit in the front. So we've got a lot of power and a lot of torque to put to the road. And one thing we've learned, or to put it another way, one thing I broke was the front motor mount. I was doing some hard launches and the motor mount broke. So just to give you some context of how these motors are normally mounted in a Tesla, they normally have this mount here on the side, which has a pickup point there and there that mount it to the actual vehicle itself. These are mounting to the motor. And then the other pickup point, so there's only two, is over here. So that's the other mount that normally mounts to the car. But we haven't got the space to be able to put that mount in. So we made our own mini mount, if you like, there. But what we found was on a hard launch, the whole motor was doing that. It was kind of snapping. And when I say snap, literally snapped one of the mounts. And that mount there got bent as well. So what we've done now is improve that mount there to be a really beefy affair. I think it's in 6mm steel there now. And added two other mounts as well as the standard mounts there and there. We've got a mount here and at the rear as well. So that's completely stopping any movement now. And I can see it because I can see the drive unit in between my feet. When I floored it before, it was doing that. Now it don't move. So that's one thing we've learnt this week, that apart from the fact I can break things, but we knew that already. Tim definitely knows that.
We did.
We've improved that, so that should stop that. And the other thing is the handbrake. So no race car or rally car is complete without a silly stick. So let's have a chat about the silly stick. Now, another thing we've been developing is a fly-off handbrake, which is this thing here. But what is that? Well, back in the days of rallying, when me and Tim were going hell for leather in the forests of Wales, this kind of thing was used quite a bit. Essentially, why you have it, or what's different actually about that and a normal handbrake? Well, a normal handbrake in a car is ratcheted, it's got a button on it, and it's usually, if not always, cable operated. But these are different. There's no ratchet on these. You can't go like that and it stops the car from rolling back. It's literally an on-off type of affair. And when you use it, it's coming into a corner, a really tight corner, and you want to just flick the back round, you do turn the wheel, do that, and that'll start the slide, and then you continue the slide on the throttle as it just power slides around, and then you're off again. So I feel a lot more comfortable when I've got one of these, because it kind of gets you out of jail when you're really in a sticky spot and you think, oh my God, that's too much speed, I need to get the back around, round you go, and off you go. So I'm a lot more comfortable having one of these. Now initially, I wanted to use this, which is my old gear shifter out of my Beetle, because it looks so cool, billet aluminium. I just love the design of it. And we shoehorned it right in the corner there, and we used it, had a hydraulic handbrake master cylinder there. But unfortunately, it didn't have the power to stop the back wheels, because don't forget, an electric car, it's not just the wheels you're trying to lock up, but also the wheels are directly connected to the drive shaft, through the drive shafts to the electric motor. So you've got the inertia of the electric motor to stop as well, because there's no clutch to disengage the motor from the wheels. So you really need quite a powerful hydraulic handbrake, and that just didn't have the beans, if you like, to stop those rear wheels, mainly because it needed more leverage. We tried different diameters of master cylinders in there, and that really didn't do the job. So now we've developed one that's down there, big stick, which is more usual for hydraulic handbrakes for anybody that's into drifting and stuff. So that now is working a treat. Haven't fully tested it, so today we'll give that a little bit of a go as well, just to see if that's fixed it. But that's my silly stick. On a previous episode, I mentioned that our workshop manager Tony said we're going to need power steering for this, and I thought, no, I'm a manly man, this is a race car, I'm not going to need power steering. How wrong was I? Because we couldn't even turn it at a low speed out of the workshop, it was that bad. So Tony, you were right, I was wrong, hold my hands up, but now we've installed the power steering. So the EPAS system is there, you can see the motor there, that's the controller for it. But the other thing that we've added as well is a speed sensitivity system as well, because with power steering you need it at low speeds, but over, I'd say 15 miles an hour, you kind of need the assistance, if you like, to drop away to nothing, so that you can really feel what the road's doing. And that's where you need a speed sensitivity, controller to send that speed information through to the power steering unit. And that's what this little box is down here. So we have a little black box that communicates via CAN, gets the speed information in, and provides a a square wave output that the power steering ECU understands to be able to derate the assist of the power steering. So it's all in there, just untested. So it's another thing we're going to be looking at today. The time has come to take the beast for a spin. And the guys have been so kind this week, they've even put the windscreen in, which is the first time that's been in. So one thing that's not getting any easier is getting in and out of this thing. Oh, there we go. That's it. That's the way I've found the most easier so far. It reminds me of getting in and out of the 914 rally car.
It's like Dukes of Hazzard.
Like Dukes of Hazzard, yeah. Right, safety first. Get me belt on. Something Tim tells me to do quite often is belt up.
Belt up, yeah.
Right. So, to switch a car on, or switch this race car on, it's so easy. All you've got is essentially that. Wakes everything up. Instantly, it's got power to the iPad mini, which has got the EV Controls app in it, which tells me all I need to know there. So we got direction. So if I put my foot on the brake, I can change it to forward and reverse, and back into neutral. Other bits and pieces on there that I need to know. My BMS screen's there, so I can see what the cells are doing, what the voltage is. So, time to put on the steering wheel and take it for a spin. Let's go. Can't get it out of four-wheel drive. For some reason, it's not wanting to go into rear-wheel drive. So on the settings here, if you have a close look at the settings here, if I go into the settings here and I put it into rear-wheel drive, which it is in now, so it's RWD, and I go back in here, if you zoom in on the screen there, Tim, you'll see that in forward, the amps to the front, whereas the amps to the rear and amps to the front are there. So in rear-wheel drive mode, you should only get amps going to the rear. If I slowly put my foot down now, you'll see amps to the front and amps to the rear. What's going on there? So, yeah, that's something that we're going to have to look at. So I'll have to contact Chris at EV Controls and figure out why it's not doing as we expected. But as far as power is concerned, oh my god, this has got ridiculous amounts of power. I'll just put it in neutral before I touch the throttle again, because if you even breathe on the throttle, you are just accelerating into the future like you would never believe. But in four-wheel drive mode, yeah, that works. Very scary. I need to be on a track. Right, I'm just going to do a standing start, nothing too dramatic. Four-wheel drive mode. I just want to see what launch is like, and particularly what that front motor is doing down there. I just don't want to see it moving about again. So, right, you ready, Tim?
Yeah, hang on.
I'm not sure I'm ready. I'm liking this. Man, this is nuts.
That is stupidly quick.
Yeah, there's some work to do though. Back in the workshop. Man, that's nuts. Okay, I've stopped play because there's some things I'm not happy about, and I don't want to push things until we got them absolutely right. And equally, I want to get this on a track, really. So, number one, oh my God, it's quick. It's insanely quick. Yeah, the things we need to snag now is I can't put it into rear-wheel drive only or front-wheel drive. It's only stuck in four-wheel drive for some reason. So I definitely need to fix that. Otherwise, there's no way we're going to be able to do drifting. So that's one thing. The silly stick is okay, but travel is far too much. So I'm having to pull it from there all the way back to about there. So two things we can either do on that. We can either increase the bore of the master cylinder. I think that's a 0.625. I'm pretty sure I got a 0.75 on the shelf, so we could try that. Or increase the pivot point. So if the pivot point is kind of there, we could move it further up so it gives it more force for less movement down here, or sorry, more movement on the bottom side of things, less movement up the top. So I'll have a chat with Tony, see what he wants to do on that, whether or not it's going to be a master cylinder swap or a pivot chain swap on that. But apart from that, my adrenaline's still going. It's a monster, an absolute beast of a thing. Before we can get it on a track, I want to get the suspension on, so that's going to be the next thing we're going to sort out as well. I think after Christmas we're going to get the suspension sometime in January. Bodywork's going to be coming back as well then, because that's with the fiberglass guy at the moment. He's got to increase the width of the arches to be able to get them around the wheels. But yeah.
Slick tyres?
Slick tyres, yeah. Well, they're nearly slicks now, just after that.
They
Don't think there's much left of the tyres.
They're not MOTable, are they?
No. So, yeah, Michelin tyres, slicks will definitely be going on at some point as well. So, yeah, I think it's a very, very capable race car. Scarily quick, massive amounts of power. But because it's got so much power, we really need to get the other bits and pieces spot on before we can actually take it on a track and release that power. So, on that note, I'm going to have a lie down. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you on the next one.